an original narrative, created especially for shadows of love. The champagne glass trembled slightly in Sophia's hand as she watched him move through the crowd. Damian Castellano, the man whose name was only whispered in certain circles, whose power filled the room without a single word. She hadn't meant to catch his eye across the wedding reception, hadn't intended for that moment of electric recognition when his dark gaze locked onto hers. When he approached her table, the world seemed to still, conversations fading into background noise, as he extended his hand with a simple command disguised as an invitation. Dance with me. One dance shouldn't have the power to alter a life. But as his palm pressed against the small of her back, as her heartbeat betrayed her calm exterior, Sophia knew that whatever was beginning between them would either save them both or destroy everything they'd built. Sophia Matthews adjusted the strap of her borrowed dress, feeling out of place among the crystal chandeliers and floral arrangements that cost more than her monthly rent. Her cousin's wedding was exactly what everyone expected from the wealthier side of her family. Extravagant, excessive, and a perfect reminder of how she didn't belong. More champagne, miss? A server paused beside her empty table. No, thank you, she replied, forcing a smile. 28 years old, a single mother and nurse, who had been seated at the farthest table from the bride and groom, a subtle reminder of her position in the family hierarchy. The empty chairs surrounding her told a story no one needed to speak aloud. From across the ballroom, Sophia watched her cousin Emily twirl in her designer gown, surrounded by guests who mattered. The same people who had stopped asking about Sophia's life 3 years ago when her husband left her with a mountain of debt and a 1-year-old daughter. Tonight, Lily was safe with a babysitter, sparing her from seeing her mother sit alone at a table meant for 8. A sudden shift in the atmosphere drew Sophia's attention to the entrance. Conversations paused, heads turned, and an almost imperceptible tension rippled through the crowd. The man who entered moved with quiet confidence, his tailored black suit setting him apart from the other guests in their lighter, more festive attire. Tall, with broad shoulders and features that seemed carved from stone. Handsome in a dangerous way that suggested he rarely smiled without reason. That's Damian Castellano, whispered a woman at the next table, leaning toward her companion. I can't believe Emily's father invited him. Business connections, her friend replied. You don't say no to a man like that, even at your daughter's wedding. Sophia observed him discreetly. He moved through the crowd with minimal interaction, nodding occasionally to those brave enough to approach him. There was something magnetic about his isolation, as though he had built walls that no one dared to scale. When his dark eyes suddenly met hers across the room, Sophia felt a jolt of recognition, not of his face, but of his solitude. He was as alone in this crowd as she was. She looked away quickly, embarrassed to be caught staring. When she glanced back, he was making his way toward her, his gaze never wavering. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs as he stopped at her table. You're sitting alone, he stated, his voice deep and surprisingly gentle. I am, she replied, finding unexpected courage. So are you in a way. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, followed by something that might have been amusement. Damian, Sophia. The orchestra began a new song, slower than the last. Without further introduction, he extended his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. It wasn't quite a command either. It existed in the space between, an invitation she could refuse, but somehow knew she wouldn't. She placed her hand in his and allowed him to lead her to the dance floor. His palm against her back was warm and steady as they moved together with unexpected ease. Everyone's watching us, she murmured, feeling the weight of curious stares. Let them, he replied. They were watching us separately before. At least now we've given them a reason. His confidence was contagious, and Sophia found herself relaxing into their rhythm. Why me? She asked. There are plenty of women here who would be more appropriate dance partners. Appropriate is rarely interesting, he said. And you're the only person here who looked at me and saw something other than what everyone thinks I am. And what do they think you are? His lips curved slightly. Nothing good. They danced in silence for several moments before he spoke again. Your family doesn't appreciate you. Sophia tensed. What makes you say that? The table placement, the empty chairs, the way your cousin, the bride, I assume, has looked over here twice with surprise. You notice a lot. It's kept me alive. The song ended, but he didn't release her hand. Instead, he led her toward the terrace doors, away from prying eyes. Outside, the night air was cool against Sophia's flushed skin. I have a proposition, Damian said, his expression unreadable. I came here tonight because business required it, but these people expect certain things, connections, relationships, weaknesses they can exploit. What does that have to do with me? Be my wife for tonight, he said. Just for appearances. Dance with me, laugh at my jokes, touch my arm occasionally. By tomorrow they'll have something to talk about besides your empty table, and I'll have kept certain interested parties at a distance. That's absurd, Sophia said, but didn't walk away. Is it? We both came alone. We both need something the other can provide. He stepped closer. Just tonight, Sophia. One evening of pretend, and then we go our separate ways. She should say no. She knew nothing about this man, except that something in his eyes made her feel seen for the first time in years. Okay, she heard herself say. Just for tonight. 3 days after the wedding, Sophia was arranging flowers in the small living room of her apartment when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Have you seen today's society page? A second text followed immediately with a photo attachment. Sophia's fingers trembled as she opened it to find herself staring at a picture of her and Damian from the wedding. They were dancing, his hand at her waist, her face tilted up toward his with an expression of unmistakable fascination. The caption read, "Mystery woman captures the attention of business mogul Damian Castellano at the Winters Hamilton wedding." Before she could process this, another text arrived. "We need to talk. I'll call you in an hour." The phone rang exactly 60 minutes later. "Damian," she answered. "You've seen the photo." His voice was tense. "Yes, I don't understand why it's in the paper. We just danced." "It's not about the dancing, Sophia. It's about who saw it and what they think it means." He paused. "I'm not who you think I am." "You never actually told me who you are," she pointed out. "No, I didn't." Another pause. "How much do you know about the Castellano family?" "Nothing, really." Someone at the wedding mentioned business connections. His laugh was hollow. That's one way to put it. Before he could elaborate, a knock at Sophia's door interrupted them. "Someone's here. I should go," she said. "Sophia, wait." She ended the call and approached the door cautiously, through the peephole. She saw a delivery man holding a small package. When she opened the door, he handed her the package without a word and left quickly. There was no return address, no delivery information, just her name written in block letters. Inside was a single rose, its deep red petals almost black, and a note. "Beautiful dance. We should meet. Your daughter Lily would enjoy the park tomorrow." The paper slipped from Sophia's fingers as cold fear washed over her. How did they know her daughter's name? She grabbed her phone and called Damian back with shaking hands. "Someone sent me a rose," she said without preamble. "They mentioned my daughter by name." His voice turned to steel. "Where are you?" "My apartment." "Address." She gave it to him, surprised at how quickly she trusted this man she barely knew. "Lock your doors. Don't open them for anyone but me. I'll be there in 20 minutes. 18 minutes later, a sharp knock sounded at her door. When she checked the peephole, Damian stood in the hallway, his expression grim. 2 men waited several paces behind him. She opened the door, and he stepped inside, scanning the apartment with practiced efficiency. "Show me the package." She handed him the rose and note. His jaw tightened as he read it. "What's happening?" Sophia asked. "Who would threaten my daughter?" Damian's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something like regret in them. "The Castellano family doesn't just have business connections," he said carefully. "We control certain interests in this city: shipping, real estate, protection." Understanding dawned slowly. "You're not just a businessman." "No, you're..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "I lead an organization that operates outside conventional boundaries," he said. "Some would call it a crime family. Others, more accurately, would call it a necessary balance of power." Sophia sank onto her couch. "A mafia boss. I pretended to be the wife of a mafia boss. And now someone is using that connection against me." He knelt before her, his eyes level with hers. The Vitarelli family has been trying to move into my territory for months. They're sending a message that they've found a weakness. Me, Sophia whispered. Yes, and Lily. Her voice broke on her daughter's name. Damian took her hands in his. They were warm and steady. I won't let anything happen to either of you. You barely know us. I know enough. He stood, pulling out his phone. Where is your daughter now? With my neighbor. She watches her while I work. He made a call, speaking in rapid, low tones before turning back to Sophia. Pack what you need for a few days. Clothes. Essentials for both of you. We need to move you somewhere safe until I handle this. I can't just leave. I have work. Lily has daycare. Sophia. His voice softened. They know your daughter's name. They know where you live. This isn't a negotiation. It's protection. The reality of the situation crashed over her. One dance. One night of pretending. And now her life, her daughter's life, was in danger. Okay, she said finally. Give me 15 minutes. As she moved toward her bedroom, Damian called after her. I'm sorry. I never intended for this to touch you. She paused without turning. Neither did I. This is where you live. Sophia whispered as they stepped into Damian's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the glittering city below, while minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black defined the vast open space. Lily, half asleep in Sophia's arms, stirred at the sound of her mother's voice. The 3-year-old blinked at the unfamiliar surroundings, her small fingers clutching her stuffed rabbit tighter. It's secure, Damian replied, setting down Sophia's hastily packed suitcase. 42nd floor. Private elevator access, bulletproof glass, and security stationed throughout the building. It's... Sophia searched for the right word. Empty. Something flashed across his face, perhaps recognition of a truth he'd never articulated. I don't spend much time here. One of Damian's men, Marco he'd called him, brought in Lily's small pink suitcase and a bag of groceries before disappearing with a respectful nod. The guest rooms are down that hall, Damian said, gesturing to the right. Kitchen is fully stocked. The security panel by the door controls everything. Don't touch it. If you need anything, use the house phone to call down to security. His clinical efficiency was at odds with the situation's intimacy. A mother and child seeking refuge in his private domain. Lily wiggled to be put down, her initial sleepiness giving way to curiosity. Sophia set her daughter on her feet, watching nervously as the little girl took tentative steps into the vast living room. Pretty, Lily declared, pointing at the city lights beyond the windows. Damian stared at the child as though she were a foreign object that had mysteriously appeared in his home. When Lily approached him, rabbit clutched to her chest, he took an almost imperceptible step back. What's your name? Lily asked, tilting her head up to study him. Damian, he answered, his deep voice softened. Lily. She held up her rabbit. This is Mr. Hoppy. It's nice to meet you both. Sophia watched the exchange with fascination. The man who commanded fear with his mere presence was visibly unsure how to interact with a sleepy 3-year-old. Lily, sweetheart, let's find our room and get you ready for bed. Sophia intervened, sensing Damian's discomfort. Can Mr. Hoppy see the lights first? Lily asked, already moving toward the windows. Just for a minute, Sophia conceded. Following her daughter, Damian remained where he stood, watching them silently. When Sophia lifted Lily to get a better view of the cityscape, she caught his reflection in the glass, something unreadable in his expression as he observed them. It's late, he said finally. I'll show you to your rooms. The guest suite was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse. Expensive, but untouched. Twin beds with crisp white linens. An attached bathroom with marble fixtures. And not a single personal item to suggest anyone had ever stayed there before. Thank you, Sophia said as Damian lingered in the doorway. For protecting us. It's my responsibility, he replied. My actions put you in danger. Our actions, she corrected gently. I agreed to the charade. Something shifted in his gaze, a recognition, perhaps, that she wasn't seeking to place blame. After a moment, he nodded. Try to rest. We'll talk more in the morning. The door closed behind him with a soft click. It took nearly an hour to settle Lily in the unfamiliar room. But eventually, the child drifted off, Mr. Hoppy tucked securely under her arm. Sophia sat on the edge of the second bed, the events of the day crashing over her in waves. Unable to sleep, she slipped out of the room and padded quietly down the hall, drawn to the soft glow of light from the living area. Damian sat at a sleek desk, his profile illuminated by a single lamp as he studied something on his laptop. He'd removed his jacket and rolled up the sleeves of his white shirt, revealing strong forearms, marked with a single tattoo she couldn't quite make out. He looked up before she could retreat. Can't sleep? No. She moved further into the room. This is a lot to process. Understandable. He closed the laptop. Would you like a drink, please? He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter and handed one to her. Their fingers brushed during the exchange. And Sophia felt a current of awareness that had nothing to do with their dangerous situation. Will you tell me what we're really facing? She asked, taking a small sip. The whiskey burned pleasantly down her throat. Damian studied her for a long moment before answering. The Vitorelli family has been trying to take over certain operations in this city for years. They've never had leverage against me before. And now they think I'm that leverage. Yes. Because they believe I'm important to you. His eyes held hers. They saw what they wanted to see at the wedding. A man like me, showing interest in someone. It's rare enough to be notable. And dangerous, Sophia added quietly. Very. He took a drink. I have men tracking down who sent the message. Once we identify them, I'll handle it. Handle it how? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. However necessary, he finally said. Sophia nodded, understanding what he wouldn't explicitly state. How long will we need to stay here? A few days, maybe longer. He set down his glass. I've arranged for your work to be notified that you've had a family emergency. Lily's daycare as well. You've thought of everything. It's what I do. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Plan for contingencies. Was I a contingency you planned for? The question slipped out before she could stop it. No, he admitted. You were. Unexpected. The word hung between them, laden with meaning neither was ready to examine. Over the following days, an unspoken routine developed. Damian left early each morning, returning late in the evening to find Sophia and Lily, adapting to life in his austere domain. The penthouse gradually transformed, colorful drawings taped to the refrigerator. A makeshift fort of blankets in one corner of the living room, the scent of home-cooked meals, replacing the sterile absence that had defined the space before. On the 4th night, Damian returned to find Sophia asleep on the sofa, a children's book open on her lap. He stood watching her for longer than he would admit, struck by how completely she and her daughter had disrupted the carefully maintained emptiness of his life. When she stirred, opening her eyes to find him there, neither spoke of the boundaries slowly dissolving between them. On the 7th day, everything changed. Sophia's phone, which Damian had insisted she keep turned off, buzzed with a message from her cousin Emily. Where are you? Everyone's worried. That man is dangerous, Sophia. Whatever he's told you, you can't trust him. Call me. She showed Damian the message that evening. His expression darkened. Your cousin. How well do you know her husband's family? Not well. Why? Because the only people who knew you were with me are the ones who were at that wedding. His voice was dangerously quiet. And the only ones who could connect you to your daughter are family. Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. You think someone in my family is working with the Vitorellis? I think, he said carefully, that betrayal rarely comes from strangers. The revelation that someone in Sophia's family might be connected to the threats against her cast a shadow over the fragile peace they'd established in Damian's penthouse. For 3 days, he increased security and conducted his investigation with cold efficiency, sharing little with Sophia, beyond assurances that he was making progress. On the 4th morning, Damian entered the kitchen to find Lily perched on a stool at the counter, solemnly stirring pancake batter while Sophia supervised. The domesticity of the scene stopped him in the doorway. This wasn't his world. Yet somehow they had created it within his walls. Damian, Lily exclaimed, waving her batter-covered spoon dangerously. We're making pancakes with faces. I see that, he replied, his usual reserve softening as it always did around the child. Over the past 10 days, Lily had systematically dismantled his defenses with her unfiltered affection and endless questions. She followed him around the penthouse in the evenings, chattering about her day, showing him her drawings, demanding stories before bedtime. To Sophia's amazement, the feared Mafia boss complied with each request, his initial awkwardness giving way to genuine engagement. Coffee? Sophia offered, already pouring him a cup the way he preferred it. Black, no sugar, thank you. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, a brief contact that nonetheless sent awareness skittering along Sophia's skin. These moments had become increasingly common. Small touches that lingered, glances that held too long, the gravity between them strengthening, despite their mutual efforts to maintain distance. "I need to speak with you," Damian said quietly, after breakfast. Something in his tone made her pulse quicken. "Is it about my family?" He nodded once. "We'll discuss it later." Breakfast proceeded with forced normalcy, Lily chattering happily about the pancake faces, while the adults exchanged measured conversation around her. When they finished, Sophia settled Lily with her coloring books in the living room before joining Damian in his study. He closed the door behind her, his expression grave. "We've identified the connection. Your cousin Emily's husband, James Hamilton. His father has significant gambling debts to the Vitarelli family." "James's father," Sophia repeated, stunned. "But he's a federal judge, which makes his gambling habits particularly useful leverage." Damian's voice was clinically detached. "The Vitarellis used that leverage to gain information about me, including my appearance at the wedding, and subsequently, my connection to you. So Emily's message was likely dictated by her husband, who's being pressured by his father, who's being controlled by the Vitarellis." He paused. "Your cousin may not even realize she's being used to locate you." Sophia sank into a chair, processing the complex web of manipulation. "What happens now?" "The Vitarellis have issued an ultimatum." Damian's jaw tightened. "They want to meet with me. They're using you as the bargaining chip." "Me? But I'm not important." His dark eyes fixed on hers. "That's where they're wrong." The words hung between them, laden with unspoken meaning. "What do they want from this meeting?" "Territory. Control of the shipping routes I've maintained for 15 years. He moved to the window, his back to her. "They believe I'll sacrifice business to ensure your safety. Will you?" The question was barely audible. He turned, his expression unreadable. There was a time when the answer would have been simple. Before she could respond, his phone rang. The conversation was brief, conducted in Italian that Sophia couldn't follow. But Damian's posture grew increasingly rigid. "They've moved up the timeline," he said after ending the call. "The meeting is tonight. I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. They're using me as leverage," Sophia argued. "My presence changes the dynamic. Your presence puts you directly in danger." "I'm already in danger." Her voice rose. "My daughter is in danger because of a connection to you that isn't even real." The words struck like a physical blow. For a moment, neither spoke, the implication of her statement hanging between them. "Isn't it?" Damian finally asked, his voice low. Sophia's breath caught. "What are you saying?" He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, smell the subtle cologne that had become achingly familiar. "I'm saying," he murmured, "that what began as pretense has become something else entirely." His hand rose to cup her cheek, thumb brushing across her lower lip in a touch so gentle it made her heart constrict. Sophia leaned into his palm, knowing she should pull away, but finding herself incapable of breaking the connection. "This can't happen," she whispered, even as she tilted her face toward his. "It already has." When his lips finally met hers, it wasn't the passionate collision she had imagined in her most secret thoughts. Instead, it was achingly tender, a question asked and answered in the same breath. His hands framed her face, as though she were something precious, something he feared might shatter under too much pressure. Sophia's fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt, anchoring herself as the kiss deepened, as the careful restraint they had maintained for days dissolved into something raw and honest. When they finally broke apart, both breathing unevenly, Damian rested his forehead against hers. "Now you understand why you can't be at that meeting," he said softly. Because they were right about one thing. I would sacrifice anything to keep you safe. Then we'll find another way, Sophia replied, her voice steady with newfound determination. Together. The meeting with the Vitorelli family never happened. As Damian prepared to leave, security alerted him to an unexpected visitor in the lobby, one who refused to leave without seeing Sophia. Who is it? She asked, noting the dangerous stillness that had come over Damian. Michael Matthews. His eyes met hers. Your ex-husband. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Michael. How did he even know where I am? That's what I intend to find out. Damian's voice was deadly calm. Stay here with Lily. I'll handle this. No. She caught his arm. I need to face him myself. After a tense negotiation, they agreed to meet Michael in the building's secure conference room, with Lily remaining upstairs under Marco's watchful eye when the elevator doors opened. Sophia's first thought was that Michael looked exactly the same, handsome in the conventional way that had once seemed so important. His confident smile unchanged, despite abandoning his family 3 years ago. That smile faltered when he saw Damian standing beside her. Sophia, Michael began, ignoring Damian completely. Thank God you're all right. Your neighbor said you disappeared with some man. The whole family's been worried sick. How did you find me? Sophia asked, maintaining her distance. Emily told me you were seen with Castellano at the wedding. He glanced nervously at Damian. I've been trying to track you down ever since. Why? The single word carried the weight of 3 years of absence. Michael's expression shifted to one she recognized all too well, calculated charm designed to disarm. I've changed, Soph. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I want to make things right. For us. For Lily. There is no us, Michael. You can't be serious about this guy. He jerked his head toward Damian. Do you even know who he is? What he does? I know exactly who he is, she replied steadily. He's dangerous, Sophia. There are rumors. Enough. Damian's quiet command silenced Michael instantly. You abandoned your family 3 years ago. You have no claim on them now. Michael's face reddened. This isn't about you. This is between me and my wife. Ex-wife, Sophia corrected. And Damian is right. You lost any right to my time or attention when you cleaned out our bank account and disappeared. I made mistakes, Michael conceded, his voice softening, but I'm back now. And I've heard things about your new friend. Things that should concern you, especially with our daughter involved. The implied threat hung in the air. Damian took a step forward, and Sophia could feel the controlled violence in his posture. Be very careful about your next words, Damian advised quietly. Michael faltered, seeming to realize his miscalculation. I just want what's best for Lily. No, Sophia said, finding strength in her clarity. You want what's best for you. You always have. I have rights, Michael insisted. I'm her father. A father who hasn't seen his child in 3 years. Who hasn't paid $1 in child support. Sophia shook her head. You have nothing, Michael. No legal rights. No moral standing. Nothing. This isn't over, he warned, glancing between them. I have friends who would be very interested to hear about this arrangement. Friends in the media, in law enforcement. Damian's laugh was soft and without humor. Is that a threat, Mr. Matthews? It's a promise. Then allow me to make one in return. Damian closed the distance between them with measured steps, though he never raised his voice. The quiet intensity of his words filled the room. If you attempt to interfere with Sophia or Lily's life again, I will ensure that every financial irregularity from your past becomes a matter of public record. The embezzlement charges you escaped in Phoenix, the identity fraud in Chicago, the outstanding warrants in Nevada. Michael's face drained of color. How did you? I know everything about you, Damian continued, including the new life you've built with false credentials. How long do you think your current employer will keep you once they learn the truth? You can't do this. I already have. Damian handed him a manila envelope. Inside you'll find copies of everything I've discovered, along with a formal custody agreement relinquishing all parental rights to Lily. Sign it before you leave this room. And your secrets remain private. Refuse, and by morning, your life unravels completely. Michael's hands shook as he opened the envelope, scanning the documents inside. This is blackmail, he whispered. This is protection. Damian corrected. Something you failed to provide to your family. Sophia watched in stunned silence as Michael signed the papers without further argument, his earlier bravado replaced by defeated compliance. We're done here, Damian said, collecting the signed documents. You won't contact Sophia or Lily again. After Michael left, Sophia turned to Damian, questions in her eyes. How long have you known about him? Since the first day you came here, he admitted. I had you both investigated thoroughly. I needed to know all potential threats, and you didn't tell me. I didn't think he would become relevant. Damian's expression softened. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Sophia considered this, the implications of Damian's resources, and his willingness to use them on her behalf. Thank you, she finally said. Not for keeping it from me, but for protecting Lily from him. I did it for both of you, he replied simply, as they rode the elevator back to the penthouse. Sophia realized something fundamental had shifted. The threat from Michael had been neutralized, not through violence or intimidation, but through legal means, protection without bloodshed, just as Damian had promised. For the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge what her heart had already decided. The safety she felt with this man went beyond physical protection. It was the security of being truly seen and valued, something neither Michael nor her family had ever offered. The confrontation with Michael marked a turning point. With one threat neutralized, Damian turned his full attention to resolving the Vitorelli situation. Through a series of calculated moves, some Sophia was privy to, others she wasn't, he systematically dismantled their leverage, beginning with settling Judge Hamilton's gambling debts through intermediaries. 2 weeks after Michael's appearance, Damian returned to the penthouse earlier than usual, his expression lighter than Sophia had seen it since they arrived. It's over, he announced, finding her in the kitchen preparing dinner. The Vitorellis have backed down. Sophia set down the knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. How? What happened? I gave them something they wanted more than revenge, he explained, removing his suit jacket. Access to international shipping routes I control, but rarely use. In exchange, they've agreed to a non-aggression pact. Just like that. They threatened my daughter, and now it's business as usual. Damian moved closer, his expression serious. In my world, business and personal matters are kept strictly separate. Breaking that rule is what exposed you to danger in the first place. When they believed you were important to me personally. And am I? Sophia asked quietly. Important to you personally? Instead of answering, he reached for her, one hand cupping her face, while the other drew her against him. The kiss was different from their first, more certain, more demanding, as though the resolution of external threats had removed the final barrier between them. Sophia responded with equal fervor, weeks of tension, an unacknowledged desire culminating in this moment. His hands were everywhere, tangling in her hair, tracing the curve of her spine, pulling her impossibly closer. Does that answer your question? He murmured against her lips when they finally broke apart. Before she could respond, a small voice interrupted them. Are you going to be my new daddy? They turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, Mr. Hoppy dangling from one hand as she watched them with solemn curiosity. Damian froze, clearly unprepared for the question. Sophia moved toward her daughter, kneeling to meet her eyes. Sweetie, it's not. Would you like that? Damian's question surprised them both. He knelt beside Sophia, bringing himself to Lily's level. If I were in your life that way. Lily considered this with the serious deliberation only a 3-year-old could muster. Do you know how to read bedtime stories? I'm learning, he replied solemnly. And do you love my mommy? Sophia's breath caught. She turned to Damian, seeing the conflict in his eyes, not over the truth, she realized, but over admitting it aloud. I do, he said finally, his gaze never leaving Sophia's. Very much. Then okay, Lily decided, as though the matter were settled. She yawned widely. Can we have dinner now? I'm hungry. The moment broke, reality rushing back in. Sophia returned to dinner preparations, while Damian helped Lily wash her hands, the domesticity of the scene at odds with the magnitude of what had just transpired between them. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Damian found Sophia on the terrace, staring out at the city lights. Did you mean it? She asked without turning. What you said to Lily. He moved beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. I've never lied to her. I won't start now. This is impossible, you know. Sophia turned to face him. Your world and mine, they don't fit together, don't they? He gestured to the penthouse behind them. For weeks, you've been here, in the center of my world. And for the first time, this place feels like more than somewhere I sleep between meetings. That's not what I mean, and you know it. She sighed. Your business, your life, it's dangerous, Damian. How could I raise Lily in that environment? You think I haven't considered that? His voice was low, intense. Since the moment you came into my life, I've been reorganizing everything. Moving investments to legitimate businesses, distancing myself from operations that can't be made legal. Sophia stared at him, stunned. You've been doing that, for us. For the possibility of us, he corrected. I didn't dare hope for more. The revelation settled between them, that he had been preparing for a future together, even while believing it might never happen. I'm hosting a dinner tomorrow night, he said after a moment. My family, my captains. I want them to meet you and Lily. The significance of the invitation wasn't lost on her. You're making a statement. I'm making a choice, he corrected. One I should have made explicitly the moment I asked you to dance. The family dinner was unlike anything Sophia could have imagined. Damian's inner circle, his younger brother Antonio, his consigliere Marco, and 3 captains who managed different aspects of his business, arrived at the penthouse with a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled skepticism. That skepticism dissolved throughout the evening as they witnessed the transformation in their boss. The man they knew, controlled, calculating, often remote, laughed openly as Lily showed him her latest drawing, touched Sophia's hand with casual intimacy, and spoke of future plans that included them both. When Damian asked Sophia to dance after dinner, the parallel to their first meeting wasn't lost on anyone, as he led her in a slow circle around the living room, his family watching with varying degrees of surprise and approval. Sophia felt the pieces of her new reality falling into place. They're shocked, she murmured, nodding toward their audience. They've never seen me happy before, he replied simply. The music ended, but Damian didn't release her. Instead, he took her hand and led her to the center of the room, where everyone could see them clearly. I have something to ask you, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent penthouse. When he knelt before her, Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. The first time I asked you to pretend to be my wife, it was for appearances. He produced a small velvet box from his pocket. This time, I'm asking for forever. The ring inside was stunning. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the light like stars. I know it hasn't been long, he continued. I know there are complications, adjustments we'll need to make, but I've never been more certain of anything than I am of you, of us. Sophia was acutely aware of their audience, of Lily watching wide-eyed from Antonio's lap, of the momentous shift this represented in Damian's world. Are you sure? She whispered. Everything will change. His smile was gentle, certain. It already has. When she said yes, the room erupted in applause and congratulations as Damian slipped the ring onto her finger. Sophia realized they had come full circle, from a pretend relationship born of convenience to a real commitment, forged through protection, understanding, and an unexpected love that had transformed them both. 6 months later, Sophia stood in a dressing room of the same hotel where she and Damian had first danced, adjusting the delicate lace of her wedding gown. The irony wasn't lost on her, returning to where everything began, but as a different woman entirely. You look beautiful, Mommy, Lily said from her perch on a velvet settee, resplendent in her flower girl dress, a miniature version of Sophia's own gown. Thank you, sweetheart. Sophia knelt carefully, mindful of her dress. Are you ready for your big job today? Lily nodded solemnly. I practiced with Uncle Antonio. I throw the flowers, and then stand very still. The door opened, and Emily, now reconciled with Sophia after the truth about her husband's family came to light, entered with the bouquet. It's time, she said, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Everyone's waiting. The transformation of Damian's life had been as methodical and thorough as everything he did. In the months following their engagement, he had accelerated the legitimization of his business interests, distancing himself from operations that couldn't transition to legal standing. The process wasn't without cost, financial and otherwise, but he never wavered in his commitment. Some of his associates had disagreed with his new direction. A few had left his organization entirely, but those who remained witnessed something remarkable. The empire didn't weaken under its new constraints. It evolved, becoming more resilient through diversification and transparency. As Sophia walked down the aisle toward Damian, she saw the evidence of that evolution in the guests who filled the church. Business partners seated alongside family members, former rivals now allies, and in the front row, Damian's inner circle, who had become Lily's honorary uncles. Damian himself stood waiting, his expression transforming as she approached. Gone was the calculated mask he had worn when they first met, replaced by open adoration that still took Sophia's breath away. When she reached him, he took her hands in his. "You came alone to a wedding once," he whispered. "Never again." The ceremony passed in a blur of emotion and promises. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the applause that filled the church seemed to release the final threads of their former lives. At the reception, Damian led Sophia to the dance floor for their first dance as a married couple. As they moved together under the same chandeliers where they'd first connected, Sophia marveled at the journey that had brought them here. "What are you thinking?" Damian murmured, his hand warm against the small of her back. "About pretending to be your wife that first night," she replied. "How terrified I was. And now I'm wondering how something that began with such risk could feel so much like coming home." His smile, still rare in public but freely given to her, warmed his eyes. The risk was always worth it. Later, as the celebration continued around them, they stood together watching Lily dance with Antonio, her laughter carrying across the room. "I have something to tell you," Sophia said, taking Damian's hand and placing it gently against her stomach. "We're going to need a bigger room in the penthouse." His expression shifted from confusion to wonder as understanding dawned. "You're certain?" 8 weeks, she confirmed. "I found out yesterday." The vulnerability that crossed his face in that moment, the raw emotion he allowed only her to see, was more precious than any vow they had exchanged that day. "Thank you," he whispered, pulling her close. "For what?" "For sitting alone at that wedding," he said. "For agreeing to one dance that changed everything." As the evening drew to a close, they found themselves once more on the terrace, where they had first agreed to their pretense. The city lights spread before them, a tapestry of possibilities neither had imagined when they stood in this same spot months ago. "No regrets?" Damian asked, his arm around her waist. Sophia considered the question, the danger they had faced, the adjustments they continued to make, the complexities of blending their worlds. "None," she said with certainty. "Every step led us here." As he drew her into another dance, more intimate without the audience, Sophia reflected on the strange symmetry of their journey. What began as protection, his for her physical safety, hers for his carefully guarded solitude, had transformed into something neither had been looking for, but both had desperately needed. A family, a home, a love that had rewritten the rules of both their worlds. And it had all begun with a single dance.